right. Hey, how's it going, Dory?
Really good.
Dory's my coach. She's been training me in Olympic lifting as well as Ed Ferguson.
Ed Ferguson is my coach.
Yeah.
And I'm learning
And we're a
from
team.
him how to be a better coach, and we are all a team.
Yeah.
And we belong to a club called Ferg's Weightlifting Club. It's awesome. It's on Vancouver Island, and we have the famous Ed Ferguson at the helm with over 55 years of coaching and weightlifting experience.
It's going to be amazing. They're going to go to the Worlds next year, him and his wife, Brenda. And
Yeah.
we're doing an interview on Friday, so that's exciting. So we're just testing out the equipment, and Dory thought it would be awesome to interview me as well.
Yeah, and we did that today too. So
Yeah. Did you want to talk a little bit about what our points and stuff that we've been working on?
sure. You mean about the low carb?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so we had an interview, a practice interview, and I learned a lot because Dorothy's got a great story, and she has, she discovered some pretty cool things because she's super brave, and you have to be when you change your diet. It's actually, a lot of people go to change their diet and realize that's not an easy thing to do.
No.
And you go out and you try to create a whole bunch of new habits all at once, and that's not an easy thing to do either because usually you sabotage yourself by changing more than one thing at a time. But Dorothy discovered that, as long as she had a way to keep herself on track, a daily kind of, not so much a habit, because I think it was just more of more like a mindfulness tool. You recorded, you monitored your weight and your macros, and you did that sort of daily, and it just kept you on track and reminded you of your intention to become healthier, whatever it took, literally.
Yeah, for years, literally weighing myself, but it was automatic. It's a Wi-Fi scale that connects to an app, so it's quite easy to see the chart and how my weight was going up and down and stuff like that. So over the discoveries, it was crazy because I was like, why is my weight going up?
And yet because you were paying attention, you really you got to stay on top of it and try a new strategy at a time and test drive things because you had all that data. You literally were keeping track of certain things that you can measure.
Yeah, and how I felt each time, and it was crazy. But it was not only that; it was just I would be learning stuff, and then I'd talk to, say, a nurse practitioner or my coach Dory, because she's been doing nutritional training, and my coach Ed, he's old school, so he'd give me a whole bunch of paperwork to read, and then I'd talk to the librarian at the Cancer Society, because she's got a great amount of research. That's a great resource. And another doctor. And then I also had my family history with Dr. Leo Roy, as I mentioned. And I was editing that picture, and I'm thinking, geez, this is a creamery. My ancestors owned a creamery in Chambly, Quebec, and they're all skinny. And then they introduced farming, 100 years of farming. And then what happened? They
got bigger, apparently.
They got a little bit bigger, and I remember my dad saying something about my grandmother getting heavier and stuff like that, and Dad was always concerned about diet. That was a, quite interesting story, but for another time. And so just one thing led to another. I just kept having these discoveries. Quite some time ago, before a health issue, I'd lost 37 pounds. And I'm like, wow, I didn't really clue into the macros, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I lost 37 pounds. And then after my health issue, they're like, oh my goodness, you've got to eat plant-based. And then my weight just kept going up, and I'm like, what's going on?
And then you went back to the strategy that appeared to get you that loss, that weight loss, and you realized
I found that sheet again.
There's something that isn't here, that I wasn't eating, and it ended up being
dairy. And I reintroduced dairy and a more high-fat diet. I don't know. It could have been you know, unrelated just because of the macros. You know, I don't know for sure. I mean, but, you know, I just kept trying to be, like you say before, amateur scientist and just really pay attention and just keep working on it, tickling it up. I mean, it's not, I mean, it's low carb. It's not extremely low carb. I'm probably not, it's very difficult to get under 50 grams of carbs, but, you know, I've mostly put the focus on the high fat. I'm not keeping track of the macros as much now because, you know, you just kind of see what you're eating and measure all the macros and go from there.
Yeah, it was something that got you as far as it could get you, and then you shift. You can always fall back on keeping track of your macros if you're interested. But you got to a diet that didn't really require it as much.
Because now I'm just maintaining my weight.
It's, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, controlling it quite well. And, you know, like I said, I'd like to lose a few more pounds and stuff, but I have been building muscle, doing the lifting and whatnot, and definitely way stronger. And the energy has been amazing. And that's really what I was after, because I had taken up wake surfing. And, you know, I wanted to be able to take my turn a long time, and I didn't want to feel tired or stressed or drained. And be able to, you know, really do well at this with my partner. And so, I mean, I was keeping up with somebody that was far younger than me, taking my turns just as long and going all day and for days. And
that all those changes that you made, and you know, it really paid off. You know, you got to lose the weight that you wanted to lose, and you also got stronger and more energy and braver, if that was even possible. You managed to find even more courage in there, and really, I think your strategies are pretty powerful ones. You know, being so willing to just try something, even if it's just for a few weeks. You know, a lot of times you hear like, try it for 30 days.
Yeah.
And, you know, that takes a lot of willingness. Yeah. And when people aren't willing, well, then you're just going to stay in the same state.
And I mean, it's easy to just go and try it a little bit and whatnot, but I can be very, very strict with myself. I mean, sure, I mean, I'm like anybody, you know, you want to try deep fried ice cream, you know, when you're in Thailand. Yeah, I mean, that's fun, right?
Yeah.
And but, you know, normally, you know, when I go out and stuff, I really try to follow it, you know, even at a restaurant or whatever. But the biggest thing, I think, that I would think that would compel people is this type of diet is actually easier and less expensive, because I'm not buying as many supplements as I once was. You know, sure, steak's more expensive and stuff, but you know, a roast could last, you know, all week with dried meat or jerky or however you choose to prepare it. And that's been a really big benefit is saving on that and not falling into the vitamin thing. And I think, you know, my real discovery there was when I was talking to my neighbor, and he said, well, you know, they're just trying to sell you probiotics and vitamins and stuff. And then I'm like, yeah. And then I rewatched that Dr. Leo Roy video, you know, and I'm just like, yeah, he's trying to sell vitamins. I get it, you know, because you need, you know, you go plant-based and you need all these vitamins, where the other way you don't need as much.
You seem to thrive and have more energy, and your body functions are improved, and your weight loss happens just
my mind is brighter. My mind is brighter. I may have even had memory improvements.
I think you have, actually.
Yeah.
And focus is improved as well.
The sleep, though, has been a bit of an issue, but I think that's from maybe not balancing my electrolytes properly.
Possibly.
I mean, it's been a real long bit of discovery, really, you know.
Yeah, over a year in the last phase of what you've been up to.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And at first it was just like doing something and then noticing that it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And people have to realize that that's part of it. Yeah, when you're experimenting on yourself, you're going to get to know what's not working sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just as important as what is working, right?
Yeah.
When it does. If that makes
been mind blowing.
sense.
Like I say, now I feel like I really have control over my weight. And, I'm fitting into all my clothes. So this was my normal size, maybe a little lighter. Like, I mean, when I was younger, after I had my son, I was, around 120. So I'd like to be that weight, but then I probably didn't have as much muscle as I do now.
Yeah, good point.
So, I mean, if I got down a few more pounds, then, maybe I'll unveil my new muscles.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, feels good.
There was one more.
Stuff
Yeah.
to talk about?
No, I think we covered the main points of what we kind of pulled out of your journey. I think we covered those main points. Like to just be willing to try and find your courage and venture out and know that not everything's going to work.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's feedback. It's all, and to seek out people that inspire you and have your back and will say, that's what you're doing now. That's great.
That's how I found you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I seeked you out. I thought, wow, she's totally into all the same things that I'm interested in. And
and
it's fantastic.
And that way, if you've got people telling you don't do that, that's not, that.
But you can still try it.
Yeah, it's not really up to them, is it?
No, it isn't. But I mean, if somebody has an idea, I just had to be open to that. I couldn't turn my nose up at an idea that you had. You had lots of schooling and background in it. I felt like, I've got to try this. Yeah, that's a great idea.
But ultimately, people try things when they're good and ready. Would you agree?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it just depends, on your background and stuff like that. Some people are very closed-minded and some are open-minded and stuff like that. But, I felt like I did this obviously to be healthy and I wanted to do it for myself, but I have such a passion that I want to share with everybody that I started my recipe exchange group.
Yeah.
And
so on Facebook, people can find you by searching out
recipe exchange, low carb,
IF. I think you've got in
intermittent
there.
fasting and secrets or
And
whatnot.
find Dorothy there.
Yeah, I could probably put the title up front or something like that.
And they can sort of check it out and see what kind of cool things you've been up to.
Because I'm just wanting to show that there's research to back up all these ideas. Because every time something would dawn on me, then I'd just read like a billion articles to see is that can this be repeated with other people? I mean, yes, I found this for myself, but I'm seeing the results online, people following all these different diets. But again, I didn't want to follow a bunch of different diets. I kind of wanted to discover all these things on my own. I mean, there was things that I could reference and learn from all the different diets, because I wouldn't say it's there's many different diets. Like we talked about the steak and egg diet.
So many strategies.
But what they had, the good diets seem to have in common is they're all in ketosis or a mild form of ketosis, burning the fat as fuel, like jet fuel, opposed to the carbs. Because I don't know, did we read somewhere that it says carbs aren't essential, fiber is not essential?
Well, that's true. Actually, the two essential macronutrients are protein and fat. So carbohydrate, you're right, is a non-essential macronutrient, and living a lifestyle that's zero carb, like removing all carbs, would be a very difficult thing to do. And yet we've got a group of people, a large group now in the world, studying the carnivore diet.
Yeah.
And good for them.
And it was a great result for you. You did it
I
for
gave
what,
it a try.
60 days?
I went 30 days pretty
strict,
consistent and strict, yes. And then I enjoyed it so much, I went for another 30 days a little dirty. So I added a bit of plant and, like olives and nuts and things like that. And I was just really impressed with how I felt. And it gave me another level of understanding. And, Yeah, it's like with many things. It's good to sort of hear out the opposing views even, or listen in on something that you're not quite ready to do yet, but with an open mind.
Yeah,
which is, I
that's
think,
key here.
Ultimately, that was what I got out of, that's what I get out of our chats and out of our time together, is that you just have this incredibly open mind, which has allowed you, which has allowed you to just really explore things with fearlessly.
Yeah.
So good for you.
Thank
and
you.
I think that, other people could be inspired by that ability that you have to just keep your mind wide open, keep listening and learning and asking questions, and also courageously willing to try out stuff.
Yeah, I just don't even feel like I'm done. At some point, somebody's like, "Oh, we should write an ebook or something like that," and I kept thinking, "Okay, I'm going to get prepared to do this. I've got this story, and I've done all this stuff." But then it's kind of like, oh, but there's still all these unanswered questions. Like, okay, so yeah, I'm in ketosis.
I think that's it for us. I think that's the bell, and we're probably
I was going to say I had that Neiman Marcus salad, and it had a bunch of grapes in it, and I could tell I gained like 4 pounds. I'm like, what?